we just showed you the deep back flexion influence. Now I'm going to show you how we can have a huge influence on the shoulder blade. So you might. Okay, so now a couple cues that work really, really well. So let's say that I want to work on stabilization of JP's right shoulder. The serratus anterior is going to originate in the medial border of the shoulder blade here. It's going to come around and it's going to interdigitate with the rib cage on the front side here. So this is a key crossroads of a bunch of key muscles here. Now, for me to activate the serratus anterior effectively, I have to have this anchored properly. So that, again, we're back to I need the right amount of intra-abdominal pressure here if I want to have an influence here. So the resistance I'm going to give him is going to be opposite to the pull of the muscle of the serratus anterior. So if serratus anterior is doing this, I'm going to give him resistance this way, and my cue is going to be, don't let me move your shoulder blade up. Don't let me move it up. And what that does, it allows him not to recruit his lat. So take a break for a sec. So the ultimate substitutor and default mechanism for scapulothoracic stabilization is lat over recruitment. So, for example, you're 10 years old and we line up 10 kids here. If we did the DNS test on them, we would be able to tell from that testing with almost 100% certainty who was able to do a pull-up and who wasn't. So then as they move along in their life, now they're 15 years old, 16 years old, and through compensation, you end up being able to do a pull-up, but through excessive lat activity, but you still don't have great serratus activity. So when people don't have good stabilization with serratus, they'll over-recruit lat. So if we do like just a muscle length assessment and we feel that they have a tight lat, it almost always will tell us that they don't have great stabilization in their scapula. And it is like we talked about yesterday with pull-ups. If we don't have the right intra-abdominal pressure here, what we see in a pull-up, especially like in the world of CrossFit and things like this, we see huge buckling into anterior pelvic tilt. So, and then go on your back one sec. So I think just assessing the length of the muscles can be very, very helpful. So actually JP's really good here. He's got good arm flexion, but there's a little bit of limitation here. So what do I know? I know exactly where I'm going to find a trigger point. So he's got this trigger point in the lat. So then when I get done, I can come back and I can reassess that. Again, is a trigger point a good or bad thing? Good thing in a poor functioning system. And then if I want to assess like his extensibility of his pecs, if you imagine this table extended outward like this, and I held his rib cage down, as I abduct his arm, I would want and expect his arm to stay in the plane of the table. What happens though, in a lot of people, is we start to get too much tension in our pec, the arm will start to creep up like this here. So it's a really good little assessment to see, because what that tells you is if you're unsure on your functional test, that trigger point is telling us that the shoulder is probably not 100% optimally being stabilized. So on him, like right here is where he starts to lose. So I can tell you exactly where he's going to have a trigger point because of that. It's going to be right here. So then when I'm done with my treatment, then I can come back and then I can reassess it. Okay, go on your belly for a minute. So I'm going to show you 3 ways to have a huge influence on the shoulder blade from this position here. So one is what I just showed you. So I kind of get in the infraspinatus fossa here. Don't let me move you up. Don't let me move you up. And this, of course, could be done bilaterally too. Don't let me move. And the reason I cue him exactly like I do is if I tell him, hold your shoulder blade down, what's he going to do? Lats, yeah. Or you hear a lot in the gym setting, put your shoulder blade in your back pocket. And then so immediately you over-recruit your lat. So if I say, meet my resistance here, it's just perfect. And then now, remember the mechanics, it seemed like an eternity ago. Yesterday in lecture, though, we were talking about, so now this is supporting. So now we reverse the pull of all of these muscles here. Okay, that is one cue I use. The other cue that I also like is I'll find if this is the medial border of the shoulder blade, come up an inch or two. And this is actually a point that we use in reflex locomotion, but that's not part of the curriculum now. But so anyways, I'm at that point, and now I give him the same, I say, don't let me, or meet my resistance here. I either say, don't let me move you, or meet my resistance. And you can see the right reaction in the hand. Nice. And then the third one I really like is I like to work on disassociating the shoulder blade from the humerus. So, like I said before, what ends up happening is when this is unstable, the humerus and shoulder blade begin to move together because we have such tightness in the external rotators in the posterior capsule. So one thing I can do from this position that works really well, I actually distract here. So it's like I'm pulling the humerus this way as I'm turning the shoulder blade that way, like that. I don't want to do this because that decentrates the shoulder. So a lot of times when people do that, I think a mistake is they're pushing too far inferior. Instead, I want to almost like adduct the shoulder blade because the shoulder blade is in too much abduction. So it's like this. So I'm thinking I'm creating stretch here.
What's your cue to him to resist you as you're
No cue. No cue. So let me just review those three things. So the first one was, I'm here, don't let me move your shoulder blade up. The other one I did was I got on an inch or two up from the medial border, meet my resistance here. And the third and final one was what I just showed you, which is I'm almost creating distraction here and then turning the shoulder blade back. So those are three ways to have an influence on the scapulothoracic joint from the 3-month position. There's a million others, but we got to start somewhere. So and what I've learned is, if you guys can go back to your practices and plug these things in and get good at that, I mean, you're gonna have such an amazing effect with your cases. So
on the third one there, he should stay relaxed in his neck.
Well,
You always do the same thing?
yeah, but we were activating the reaction, so he didn't even realize he was coming up. It was all part of the reaction. But yeah, typically, especially when we start, yeah, they're neutral on that. However, go back down. If they can maintain the position, I can do all of it though. So I can have him up like this, hold. Keep your pressure. Don't let me move you up here, JP. So as long as he's able to maintain good position here, we can kind of kill two birds with one stone. Yep. All right.